We're going to be talking today about how to file your taxes for free online. And also I'm going to give you some information about free tax prep that's available at the East Harlem Health Action Center. Show you some resources that you can use on your own to file your taxes online. If these are something you've used before, maybe this will be a review for you. If you haven't in the past, this will be some new information. This is going to be, I think, a two-part class. So next time we'll get into some of the real sort of specific questions that you might get asked when you're doing your taxes through an online app. And today we're going to talk about sort of broader, like how do you find a provider or like an app that is right for you in terms of filing your taxes, because there's a lot to choose from. As is necessary, I want you to know that I am not a tax professional. I am not a CPA. I can't help you with your taxes because I don't know how. I can show you what resources are otherwise available to you and give you a sense of the kinds of questions you'll be asked, what sort of information you need to have on hand in order to file your taxes. But I don't know tax law or anything like that. So I'm going to try and connect you to the information and resources that make it so you can get those questions answered from somebody who otherwise would, or your taxes are just straightforward enough that you can answer some questions and they'll be done. So today we are talking about free online tax filing. So if you're filing a simple tax return, and we'll talk about what that is, and you meet certain income requirements, you can file your taxes online for free. You can either use tax filing programs that are sponsored by the IRS, and we'll look at some of those. So these are places that just sort of, have some connection to the IRS. The IRS has put them up on their website as options for you that you can sort of go through and choose one. Or you can just go straight to maybe somewhere that you've used in the past, like H&R Block or TurboTax or something like that. We'll talk about that as well. So there's lots of options out there, and the income thresholds we'll talk about as well, but a lot of us are going to qualify for these. So let's look at some of these options. All right, so let's talk about what a simple tax return is. So again, these are going to be free filing for simple tax returns. So a simple tax return is going to mean that it's going to cover something where you have W-2 income, so like from regular employment, limited interest or dividend income, you use standard deductions, and it can also include unemployment income. And many free filing sites also include and make it so that you can file for the earned income tax credit, child credits, and student loan and education deductions. So if you get any of these sources of income and that's it, right? Like you get any sort of W-2 income, whether it's Social Security or from employment, anything like that. If there's not much more complexity to the taxes that you're going to file, that is a simple tax return. So these are the things that most free filing is going to cover if you're under a certain income limit. Let's talk about what would make your taxes a little more complicated and might go above the threshold for free tax filing. So if you have 1099 employment, which is generally like self-employed, freelance, any sort of like gig work like that you get a 1099 for, that's going to make your tax return be more than like a little bit more complicated. So not a simple tax return. If you have a small business, if you have any rental income, if you have earnings from investments, all of those are going to make it so you're going to need to file something that's probably not just the free version. You'll need a little bit more help with that. And we'll talk about that at the end as well. So just again, if this is sort of what your income and your potential credits that you'll be taking look like, then you should be falling in the realm of a simple tax return. So if you meet the income requirements, you should have multiple choices for where to file these taxes online for free. So what are the benefits of filing for free online? So one of the things that I have found really useful, I file my taxes online and have done for a long time for free. And one of the things that I find really helpful is that instead of, you having to answer these questions that are very much about like, what is in box 2A or whatever, again, they'll streamline these questions and make it like, did you get married in the past year? Did you have sources of income from rental properties? Like they're very sort of clear questions that your answers will make it clear to the app what kinds of income you have or what you might owe. So it's like it's made to sort of cut through all the technical and financial language that can get a little tricky for me when looking at taxes. So the app will then calculate your taxes based on how you answer these questions. So that can just make it's just an easier process. It's been an easier process for me. Just make note that some free file apps will also do your state return for free. So if you're filing a federal return, you should be also filing a state return. Double check that the app that you're using does that. It should tell you that very clearly. And we'll look at some examples of that in a minute. If you need to file, I mean, you should be filing federal and state both. So if you can find one that does both for free, that can be really helpful. Another thing that's helpful about filing online is that you can generally, most of these places let you scan or take a picture or have a PDF where you upload forms like your W-2, and that means you're not manually entering all these things by hand. So you don't have to deal with individual figures in quite the same way. It can do a lot of this stuff sort of automated for you, which is helpful. Also, when you're done and it's told you what you owe or what is owed to you, you'll have a copy of your tax form that's filled out that they'll let you download. So you'll have a completed tax form that they will have populated with information based on the numbers and the life events that you've given them, right? But you'll have that for your files at the end and it'll be filled out, okay? So that's good too. You can keep that as a record for next year when you'll need it again. And here we are. So what do you need to file your taxes online? So what do you need to have on hand in order for this to work? So you should have a copy of your taxes from last year that shows your adjusted gross income, your AGI. You should have your social security number and the social security numbers of your spouse or anyone you claim as. If you don't have a social security number, you can have the tax identification number, and that should work too. You should have your documentation of all your income, including your W-2s, your social security benefits, unemployment compensation. All of that should have come to you either through mail or email. So make sure you have all the documentation for that on hand. You'll need to have a working email address. And then if you're planning to either pay a tax liability or to get a refund via direct deposit, you'll need a account and routing number for the bank account that you want to use, either for that payment or for where you want to receive your refunds. So those are the things you'll need to have on hand when you're getting started with this. And reminder, the tax filing deadline is April 18th. All right, so you need to file both your federal and state returns by April 18th in order to avoid any late fees or penalties. So keep that date in mind if you don't already have it on your calendar somewhere. Okay, so let's talk about how to choose an online tax filing program. So we're going to start by looking at the directory that the IRS itself maintains through a program called IRS Free File. And if your adjusted gross income from last year was $73,000 or less, you qualify to use these particular providers of free tax filing program. So you're going to you can look up IRS Free File. It's this link right here. We're going to look at this option. As I mentioned too, you can also skip the whole IRS thing and just go directly to a place that you've used in the past or that you've heard of, and we'll talk about that after we look at the IRS directory on Free File. All right, so let's look at this. So if you go to that IRS Free File site, what you're going to see is a window that looks like this. And there's a couple different ways to look for a company that could, that you could use their program to file for free. I'm just showing you one of the ones that I think is the most straightforward. So to find the right one for you, you're going to go here where it says Browse All Providers and hit Browse All. Okay. Once you do that, you'll see at the sort of middle of your screen, there's going to be these questions for you to answer. So you're going to say what your adjusted gross income was last year. Tell them your age, because some of these have age limits. They only, will offer the free filing to certain age limits. Tell them if you are eligible for the earned income tax credit. That should be something especially if you filed for it last year, go ahead and probably say yes, unless something has changed drastically in your life. Say if you're active military, your country of residence and your state of residence, okay? And then once you do that, you're going to hit apply, and it'll give you the options that meet your qualification, right? So let's see. So let's say we just did that. I put in some random information in there just to get an idea of what would come out. So these are the options that I'm given. I'm just showing you the first three here. There were, I think, There were 5 of them that I got, but I wanted to just show you the first 3. So these are the ones I'm eligible to use. When you're making choices about these, some of these, it's like, what's the difference between TaxSlayer and 1040 now? I mean, I don't know, but it gives you the side-by-side comparison just so you can see what features different programs might have. So in this case, if it were me, I'm just saying if it were me, TaxSlayer does free state returns as well as federal returns. And then 1040 now does not do the state return for free. So, I mean, I kind of would want to do them both at once. So I might do TaxSlayer instead of 1040 now. If you look over here at fileyourtaxes.com, free state return if eligible for a federal return for these particular states, but it's not New York. So again, I think I'd probably end up with TaxSlayer of these 3, just because I want to do my state taxes at the same time. So that'll give you options. Once you see the one you think you want, go ahead and hit view this offer, and it should give you steps to go to their site and start the process. Another thing to keep in mind here, this one, if you put your age in here, it should be showing you this. This one is for 57 and younger and $60,000 or less. I don't know why there's a particular criteria here, but there are versions of this that will not have that particular age cap on it. So just make sure you're putting in your own personal information, and you should be able to come up with something that is right for you, and hopefully can also do state filing as well. All right, so just click on view this offer, and then it'll give you the steps to get started. If you're ever in one of these things like TaxSlayer or something like that, and they're asking you, this probably will happen, do you want to upgrade to the paid version? Just tell them no. Just keep telling them no if you have a simple tax return. It can be annoying, but you can just keep saying no, and eventually, you'll get through and do the free version. So here too, if you want to bypass the free file site and just go straight to a place that you know of or that you trust, I'm just giving you a couple of options that are popular. So Intuit TurboTax, I know a lot of people use that. They have a mobile app, so if you are doing things on your phone, that can make it a little bit easier. There's a free version for some simple tax returns, or for simple tax returns, so that's worth checking out. Again, just make sure that it sort of fits all the criteria you need it to. H&R Block has a free version for simple returns. I can tell you I used H&R Block for mine and found it relatively simple, very simple, honestly. But all of these, I think they're quite similar. It's just which one you want to go with. And I filed a simple return for free. I can verify that that is real. And then also there's Cash App taxes. If you use Cash App on a regular basis, the app is actually the same as the Cash App itself. So you may already have seen, if you use Cash App, that they have pop-ups that say, file your taxes for free. This used to be Credit Karma tax. It's just another option, especially if Cash App is something that you use on a regular basis, and they do the federal and state for free. And I sort of mentioned this earlier, but for these last 3 and some of the ones that you'll find on the IRS free file site as well, they're going to have, apps for your phone to make this even simpler. So generally, especially if you're accessing this on your phone, they'll prompt you to download the app. And so, you can do all of this with your phone in an app window. So it'll ask you the questions within that window, and then do things like have you upload your W-2s or scan your W-2s from your phone. So that can be really helpful, especially if your phone is the major way that you're going to be doing this. So in order to get to those apps, you can either, if you access any of these sites on your phone, you'll probably be prompted to download the app. Or if you want to go directly to, say, TurboTax or H&R Block or any of these, you can go to the App Store or the Play Store and download them directly. Again, if you have Cash App, that you're going to be doing your tax return within the Cash App itself. So you already, if you use that, you already have it on your phone. You can just go in there and you should see. I think they're really pushing the free tax filing on Cash App right now, so it's going to be difficult to find on there, but we can look at that next week as well. Okay, so if this is all super overwhelming and you feel, or you have, when we looked at those things that differentiate between a simple and a more complex tax return, and you're like, oh, mine's more complex, I have these other sources of income, I have some other stuff going on that would fall outside the simple thing, you are encouraged, if this is not something you think you can do on your own, to sign up for free tax prep, which is available at the East Harlem building, the Neighborhood Health Action Center. They've done this for a couple of years. I know some people have used it in the past. So from now until April 18th, it's single stop Manhattan, and they are accepting appointments for Mondays and Wednesdays from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. So they do this for free. They help you file online for free. And they are tax professionals. They can give you the kind of insight that I can. So in order to sign up for this, you'll need to fill out a Google form. They do have walk-ins, but they're super limited. So I really, really highly suggest getting an appointment. Make sure that you bring all your tax documents and your ID with you to your appointment. So everything that we talked about before that you would need to e-file, it'd be good to have all that stuff on hand when you're there in order to make sure that you don't have to come back, or that you're not missing something that you'll have to deal with later, right? So just make sure you have everything that documents your income, all the social security numbers of people you claim as dependents, that sort of on hand with you. When you go on this Google form, there are multiple single stop free tax prep sites. But if you want to check out some of the other sites on there, it's in the Google form if something is more convenient for you, another location. Here's the flyer that goes with that free tax prep. It's got a QR code on it. Note too that you make an appointment, like I said, make sure you wear a mask when you're in the building. That's their requirement. You need to make sure you have an active email address. If you have any questions about stuff you need to bring beforehand, maybe you could shoot them an email or give them a call. I'm not sure exactly where that goes or how quick they are to respond to that, but I do know that the Google form is a real straightforward way to set up the appointment.